Oh, yeah. We didn't get one expansion announced, boys. We got 3. And this is going to change the future of World of Warcraft forever. Yeah, the World Soul Saga is set to conclude before 2030, okay? So Metzen comes up there and he announces freaking 3 expansions. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute. What does this mean? Is he really announcing what's going to happen in WoW over the next 6 years? Because essentially we only get an expansion every 2 years. I'm like, really? This guy's announcing what's going to happen up to 2030? How the hell does he know all that? Well, once I saw it all, the first thing I thought was we're getting yearly expansions. And in a question to Chris Metzen and the others, they did say that we can't get into specifics, but yes, this will be faster. We want to ensure that players aren't completing this saga in 2030. Teams have been restructured to be able to create this whole saga. So they've essentially confirmed, 2030 would mean that we were getting an expansion every other year, like we do now. Right now, the way they just said this, that confirms that we are essentially going to get these much faster. Now, the other thing I thought when they said all this was, damn, that's a lot of money. You're going to be spending like, $60 to $90 a year on an expansion. If they're doing this on a yearly cadence, that's a lot of money. But what I think could be coming is the eventual, integration into Game Pass. I do. I could see it happening with these yearly expansions and everything else because it's a lot to pay for a game every year plus pay for a sub every year. Right? So I do see the potential for eventual integration into Game Pass, not where World of Warcraft would be included in Game Pass, but where... Yeah. That was me during BlizzCon. But where you would essentially see that, your subs would be paid for through Game Pass, and then you would just buy the game every year if it's coming out that way. But here's the thing. I am happy with this because right now I am flushed out of Dragonflight. Like, I'm done with Dragonflight. I'd rather not get another patch. I'd rather just move on. And that's essentially what we're going to be getting here. It's a patch every year. But what are we going to get? Expansion every year, sorry. What are we going to get in these expansions? Let's talk about the first one, the War Within, the war that we're getting, the expansion we're getting here. One of the major new features they announced was this hero talent system. And the first thing I thought was, damn, what is this? Some kind of weird progression system that's going to last one expansion. They want to iterate on this going forward a lot, they said. So this hero talent system is essentially like a specialization within your spec. It's almost like a class fantasy within your spec. To really, flush out what you want to be and how you want to play. And the cool thing is, kind of like your legendary, you can pick things and swap things out here, but eventually you're going to get it all. Now, there are these swappable things that you'll be able to pick between, and I'm sure there'll be metas and things like that. But all in all, these hero talents, I got more and more excited the more they talked about them. Yeah, they'll deliver new content every 8 weeks, but no raids. Should be interesting. Yeah, it should be. Look, the pace and the cadence is going to pick up, and it needs to. And I'm excited for that. But these hero talents are something that turned out to be way cooler than I originally thought. And then they showed the hero talent trees for every spec. Just the names. And I about lost my mind when I saw Death Knight. Let's look at these, and you guys tell me that Death Knight did not get the craziest ones of all. Now, I am biased, of course, because I play Death Knight. But look at these. I mean, we see Warrior Gods Colossus, Slayer, Mountain Thane, Warlock, Soul Harvester, Hellcaller, and Diabloist. Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. Diabloist, alright. Stormbringer, Farseer, and Totemic for Shaman, Deathstalker, Trickster, Fatebound for Rogue, Voidweaver, Oracle, Archon, Paladin. The coolest one for Paladin was Templar, I have to say. Lightsmith, Herald of the Sun, and Templar. Templar is a cool fantasy to let off as a Templar, which is it's honestly pretty cool. Master of Harmony, Shadowpan, and Conduit of the Celestial for the Monk. Also pretty cool. That the Shadowpan one sticks out to me there. Mage, Sunfury, Frostfire, and Spellslinger. Not bad. Hunter, Sentinel, Pack Leader, and Dark Ranger. Yeah, not only will Dark Ranger not be a cosmetic now, but this will be a thing that you can actually play as a Dark Ranger. That's kind of cool. Evoker, you got the Chrono Warden, which is something people talked about as another spec. And now you're going to get it as one of these like hero spec lists. That's pretty cool. A Ruby Adept and Scale Commander. A Druid, Keeper of the Grove, Elune's Chosen, Wildstalker, and Druid of the Claw. Demon Hunter, Eldarchi Reaver, and Fellsguard. And then I saved this for last, because it is certainly not least. First of all, we start out with Rider of the Apocalypse. The fucking name by itself gives me shivers. Okay, that's amazing. And then I'm going to skip this one because we got Deathbringer, also cool. But then, confirmed, here, for the first time ever, your Death Knights are in fact the vampires of World of Warcraft, because Sandlayan is one of them. Sandlayan. So what Blizzard has essentially done is, people have always said, I want to be a Templar, I want to be a Sandlayan, I want to be a Dark Ranger. They are giving us those full-blown class fantasies in these hero spec lists. This thing is really cool, and I think it could be iterated on in many ways to continue forward, to really give us, you know, that full-on class fantasy that a lot of people have always wanted, a lot of people have always been into. Won't there be a cookie-cutter beast choice? Look, there will be. For every spec, there probably will be something, yeah, that, you know, gives a little bit bigger DPS, is a little bit better for tanking, a little bit better for healing, whatever it is. But still, the fact that it's here is really cool. I do think so. And another nice thing about it is, they're not going to... When you pick one, you're really going to get essentially everything in that one. But yes, there will always be, you know, a best spec to go with, but I don't think it's going to be that big. I think a lot of this has to do with player fantasy and kind of living out that, and maybe some cosmetic stuff and everything. There will be some things integrated with your abilities. You know, like maybe it spreads out a little more, maybe it hits 2 targets instead of 1, things like that. But I do think that this will give you some variability, more than spec does, in terms of what you're going to play. What up, Riz? Yeah. Warbands pretty much means that, well, okay, let's keep moving on. Let's talk more about what's going on here. So yeah, the hero spec thing, I think people overlooked it at first. But here was the other big thing. Yes, the warbands. The warbands is a major thing for World of Warcraft. It essentially turns your list of alts and characters into a single warband that shares things, major things, like bank accounts, like transmog, like reputations, all these things, even achievements, those have been character account-wide for a while. All of these things will be now shared in your warband. And your warband is basically a fancy way of saying all of your alts, right? So yeah, if you're a collector of things, transmog especially, let's say I have my mage in my warband and my Death Knight, and a cool-ass piece of cloth gear drops, my Death Knight can pick up that cloth piece to transmog onto my mage, which is amazing. Honestly, it's such a cool concept. I love this new screen that they kind of revealed too with the warband. This is confirmed. This will be like this new character selection screen where you got, you know, your top 4-ish characters just sitting there ready to go off on an adventure. And this warband stuff is just going to make alts that much more viable. Dragonflight really was one of the most alt-friendly, if not the most alt-friendly expansion that we've had so far. And this warband thing just even kicks it up to a whole nother level. This takes it to a whole nother level. Warbands, you know, it's a great addition to the game, and it's something that they really listen to the people about. What else are we getting? So much to talk about. The Earthen Allied race. Yes, now, if you're a dwarf fan, maybe you got excited. If you're Horde, you're probably got more excited because now you can actually play as dwarves. But what are these Earthen? These are essentially the race that we're going to come across in the new zones that we're going to play in. And these Earthen really are, they're pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a major amount of customizations to them. They talked about all the blinged out crystals. I mean, you got girls with beards here, of course. Yeah, why not? And then you keep moving on. You got tons of customization to them. Supposedly, there's going to be hundreds of different beard styles and this, you know, much like the Drag Theory. Remember when the Drag Theory came out, people talked about how customizable these are? These are taking dwarf customizations to the next level, whether it comes out with body art, gems, beard styles, skin colors, hair, all that stuff. These guys are going to be highly customizable. I'm sure they're going to have some cool abilities that they'll be able to do. But all in all, I mean, these Earthen, they're fine. They're fine. We're getting another allied race. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah. What are your thoughts on if you want to guarantee beta in 3 days? I'll talk about it. Yeah, I'll talk about the beta in 3 days thing. Hey, Sam, excited for the new patch? I am. Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Big day. New delves. Okay. The delves hint at something far bigger, and I think a lot of people are missing this. Okay, these delves, what are they? These are a new outdoor content, right? It's a new piece of outdoor content. A delve is essentially like almost like instance or like dungeon content in the open world. So it's going to be 1 to 5 players. And a delve is like some kind of type of scenario or something that you could play out in the open world, and in the end, it gives you loot. Okay? Not only does it give you loot, but they really wanted to ensure that, these delves are going to be important for end game content progression. Now, not something you're forced to do, but something that if you are doing them, you can gear out by doing them, right? Just like raiding or anything else. So it's really important to consider that these could be big-time endgame content, and so much so that they added it to the Great Vault. Yeah, so they removed PvP, and now you have World as a row in your Great Vault that you'll be able to fill out by doing these delves. Now, I've always said open world content is lacking in WoW, and we need more open world content. Me personally, I love being in the open world. It's my favorite place to be in WoW, just to experience how big the world is and everything going on. But here's the thing that I think people didn't realize when they talked about delves and why it's such a big deal. You guys remember when we were talking about something called a world revamp? Now, Blizzard did, they did talk about revamping specific zones. Specifically, Northrend is going to get a revamp. We already know that in the next expansion after this one. We also know that, what's it called? The Silver Moon and the top area with all the Blood Elves. Kale Sauce, thank you for the sub, man. Prime, and it's 6 months, Death Knight of our Scourge. Thank you. We also know that Silver Moon in that upper area, with Quel'Thalas and everything, that's going to get revamped. All those assets that we talked about a long time ago that I mentioned to you guys, I said we're going to get a revamp. We are. I was right about a few things. Not everything. Not a lot of stuff, but a couple things. We also said that if they ever do a full-blown Azeroth revamp, you got to create content in those zones to take you back, right? We kept saying it. We're like, what's the point of a revamped Ungoro Crater if there's no reason to ever go back there? Here's your reason, boys. Here is your reason. Delves are only going to be in the new zones, but I think this content right here is going to expand across all of Azeroth. I think delves are going to be the thing that allows a world revamp to make old zones relevant. You could have delves in Elwyn Forest. You could have delves in Ungoro Crater. You can have delves in fucking Asilithus, whatever. These delves are going to be the thing that makes the world content relevant again, that makes the world relevant again. The world revamp's coming. I'm more confident of that than ever now. After these things were announced, this content tells me that the world revamp is in fact coming. It was already confirmed for Northrend. It was already confirmed for Quel'Thalas and all those other areas. So world revamps and delves are going to be the key to bringing us back to Azeroth, and I'm excited for that. What's up, Elena? Delves were a big deal, and I think a lot of people didn't realize that. Most definitely, and the fact that world content is now going to be in here, that's awesome. I'm so happy with that. Dragon riding for all zones, we're actually getting that tomorrow. Yeah, 10.2.5. Sorry, not tomorrow, but 10.2.5. Tomorrow, 10.2 goes live. 10.2.5 will be the patch that gives us all flying everywhere. They showed frickin' Invincible doing dragon riding shit. I mean, that was exciting as hell to see. All the zones getting dragon riding. We kind of knew that was coming. So what else is coming in the new expansion? We know the new zones, okay? New zones are coming, and they didn't really talk about the new area as a new continent. If you realize that, it's like a freaking, this new zone or new area that we're getting, it goes down instead of across, right? You dive down into the zone. It's a vertical zone. It's kind of cool. No, 10.2.5 is not the new expansion. It's just an add-on to the patch that we're getting. It'll come out before the new expansion. So the first one we get is Azj-Kahet, which is awesome. I did talk about bugs and things like that in the next expansion. So we were right about that in terms of the new Azj-Kahet zone, and all these guys coming back to see what they're going to be all about. It's really cool. I think it's a nice looking zone. The next zone to me had the most interesting storyline. Hollowfall and that light worshipping group of paladins, the Inquisitors, all that. The story behind Hollowfall to me was the most badass. It was like this whole thing about how this crystal gives them light, and when the crystal goes out, they get invaded. And the crystal's going out more and more than usual. Things are changing. And this Hollowfall zone, to me, was absolutely beautiful. It was such a cool-looking zone. Look at this stuff, man. And one thing I want to say that I feel like is changing with Chris Metzen is really, I think Chris Metzen's kind of changing our view on the light. I think Chris Messin's kind of changing our view on the light in that he is bringing the light back to the good side. You kind of know how we were playing a little bit with the fact that the light might not be good and all this stuff, and there's Naru are kind of this and that. The way Chris Messin was talking about it yesterday is the shadow and the void are bad, the light is good, we're on the side of the light, we're going to fight the void, we're going to push it back. These guys are kind of going to teach us more about the light, I think. They're going to really dig into what the light is all about, why it's good. You know, I'm sure it's not all good like all things in WoW, but I do feel like the way Chris Metzen was talking about the light yesterday, he really wanted to reiterate that the light is not this questionable thing. The void is not this questionable thing. The void is clearly bad. It wants to end us. The light will be our way to push back against the void. And that's how I saw it coming. Revendreth light revamp? Maybe. Yeah, but these assets look amazing. This zone looks amazing. I really like the story behind this zone. I thought it was really nice. Now, the Isle of Dorn is another one, and this one's my favorite. Aesthetically, I mean, the Hobbit, look at that. You get the grass on top of the huts, the Dwarven aesthetic to it. This zone was my favorite of the zones they showed. I thought it was beautiful. It's an amazing Azerothian-looking zone. You know what I mean? Like, this just screams Azeroth to me. And the Dwarven aesthetic, all the square buildings, and I love the foliage and the plants growing everywhere. It's really cool because when you think dwarf, you think very dark, lava, right? You know, you think all that stuff, but then this one is very green. It's like a mix between dwarf and nature, and I love it. I love the way it looks. Again, this is like our hub city, I believe, for the next expansion, and I'm all about it. It looks really, really good, and this will be like the top layer. You know, this is the top of where we're going. Man, I love these little huts. How they have the grass growing on top and everything. Amazing looking zone. To me, this is one of my favorites. This is my favorite, actually. Isle of Dorn is my favorite. The Ringing Deeps will be just below. This will be, you know, a cavernous area with skylights that still point to the top and everything. A cool looking zone, you know, not much different than what we've seen before. More dwarven stuff going on down here. It's cool. It's cool. Isle of Dorn, definitely my favorite aesthetically. And I would say Hallowfall, my favorite in terms of storytelling. The story that they were telling here looks freaking amazing. I was so excited to explore the lore in this zone. And all in all, I think these zones look good. I do. I think the zones look good. And we're not getting a massive new continent like Avalorn and everything. We're getting a very vertical expansion where you go down into the ground. But, hey, those Tally tweets were right. That's for sure. It looks really cool to me. In terms of raid, the Nurobar Palace, yes, is the first raid. There's not much they talked about. They showed us a map, a little bit of, you know, what the palace could look like. And they also said they want to make it like a vertical raid, kind of like the new zone where you're going deeper into the ground the deeper you get into the raid. And it's going to be very Nerubian themed, which I'm cool with. I like the Nerubian themes. I think that's going to be nice. 8 new dungeons. Yes, the Rookery, the Stone Vault, prior to the Priory of the Sacred Flame. Probably has to do with those paladins. City of Threads. Cinderbrew Metairie, Dark Flame Cleft, the Dawnbreaker, and the Old City. So you got 4 max level dungeons, which will become part of the, you know, mythic rotation, stuff like that. And then 4 level up dungeons. Not bad. Ham Farm expansion. Near Pandaria, I think they said. No, I think down the corner near Pandaria. You are right. That's where it's going to be. They kind of showed an X between Kalimdor and Pandaria in the bottom corner of the map. That's where this is going to be. The dungeons, fine. You know, this is standard stuff. We're getting a new raid, new dungeons. Yeah, that's cool. The World Soul Saga looks to fulfill Anduin's prophecy. Now, I've talked about this a lot. You guys know I kept hinting at that comic. And I said there was a comic where Anduin looks old. And in the end, he's getting ready to fight the Shadow. And I've mentioned it many times on this stream about, oh, is that comic ever going to be real? Maybe this is maybe we're getting old Anduin. This is it, boys. This is it. This story is the beginning of the fulfillment of what we saw years ago when this comic dropped, when Prophet Velen was standing at the back of Anduin, and he said, the light will triumph over the shadow this day. And Anduin says, let it begin. This is it. This is it. This is the fulfillment of the light versus the void, the shadow against the, you know, the brightness of the... It's all happening. It's all happening, and it starts with this. And can I just say, the realisticness of this fucking cinematic blew my mind. It wasn't a cool epic moment cinematic. You know, when I saw it, I was like, when I first saw it, I'll be honest, I was like more touchy-feely, like everyone's crying, everyone's being friends, like, come on, man, give me some war. But when it was announced that this was, you know, the first of a 3-part series, I thought, okay, this is okay. Not having some kind of epic cinematic to start a 3-part series is okay with me. I'm expecting the third one, of course, to be epic, and the middle one to kick it up a little bit. But the first one kind of getting us into it, and that moment where they revealed the sword was pretty badass, I'm not going to lie. But all in all, this cinematic, in terms of like just the way it looked, blew my mind. I kept looking at it, and I was like, my God, how did they do this? This looks more realistic than anything I've seen come out of Hollywood. There were points in the cinematic where I actually thought Anduin was real. And here's what I want to see about this 3-part series. All in all, okay? This 3-part series, to me, is going to be the Infinity Saga of World of Warcraft. It is. This is the Infinity Saga of World of Warcraft. To me, this is where we fight the boss that we've been talking about. What's going to happen after this? I have no idea. Marva fell off after the Infinity Saga. I don't know if the World of Warcraft will too. I think maybe we'll get like a WoW 2-ish thing coming up. But what I will say is I can totally imagine in The Last Titan some type of Avengers Assemble moment where Anduin's, you know, ready to go, and we have literally every character from the lore that we've seen over time. I'm talking about Illidan, Prophet Velen. You got all the heroes from the Horde and the Alliance, all shoulder to shoulder. The biggest moment in the game's history. Every hero assembled to fight against this Last Titan or whatever the hell's going on. I could totally imagine some kind of crazy cinematic universe moment in this final thing, and I think this saga, we're going to look back on it and think, wow, that was an amazing story. What happens after, I'm not sure. How do they top it after? I'm not sure. But what I will say is I think we're seeing the beginning of some really cool storytelling. Yes, some kind of Star Wars saga, maybe something like that too. But I do see this going in the right direction. I really do. So when does this all start? They said alpha begins in the spring. So we'll have alpha access in the spring. Not we, only probably certain people will. And then if you pre-order, you're going to get beta access. Now the pre-order. Let's talk about it a little bit. What do you get? Well, there's a $50 version, and then there's a $90 version. I don't know who's going to buy the one in between. Maybe some people. But really, it's going to be between the first and the last. And the one thing that I didn't like, I will say, it was one of the most disappointing things to me in the announcements was the 3-day early access for the $90 edition. I'm not going to lie. It hurt my feelings a little bit because I will do it, right? I'll buy the Epic Edition to get the 3 days early. I stream, it's fine, it's part of what I do. But I feel bad for anyone who's not going to get it. 3-day early access is too much, man. This is an MMORPG. This is a game where progression matters. Now, they did say that, okay, the season's not going to start yet. So any progress you make in 3 days is just going to be related to leveling content. You're not going to be able to power progress really, and then everyone else will be able to catch up. But it's kind of messed up. I'm not going to lie. Why the 3-day head start? Who cares? Well, for me, it's going to be about streaming. I want to get in as soon as possible, so I'm going to get it. One thing that makes this a little bit more worth it is you do get 30 days of game time, so you can take $15 essentially off this price. So it makes it a little less bad. You know, it's technically $75 instead of $90. But I wish they didn't do this. I wish they didn't do the 3-day early access, honestly. Well, what else do you get anyways? You get the Algarian Stormrider and the armor as well. So this is the Thundering Stormrider armor. Honestly, the armor looks freaking great. It's got some cool thundering mechanics to it. If you look at it, there's lightning going off on this thing everywhere. It's kind of cool looking. I'm not going to lie. Play all day and you'll catch up. It's fine. Yeah, no, there's no progression to be lost by the 3 days. I just kind of wish they did do it. Why? Come on, really? Freaking giving 3-day early access? I don't think that's necessary. But yeah, this armor looks good. It does. I think it's cool looking armor. It's something that you'll be able to transmog with a lot of stuff. I love the squareness of it. Very dwarf-esque. I like it. And here's the other thing. Something that we are big time wrong about is this Algarian Stormrider, man. So we all thought it's going to be some kind of elemental tornado boy. It's not. It is essentially a griffin that's fully customizable like the dragon riding mounts were. So it is a dragon riding style griffin, right? But you can customize it in many ways. So there's tons of different customizations. Cheeks, crown. Now, they don't have a lot of this stuff on here. I think it's kind of glitched out. Different colors of the mount as well. This whole mount customization thing is something they talked about a little bit, and I think it's something we're going to get much more. Here's different snouts. So here we can look at all the different kinds of snouts, and you get all of these when you get the expansion, if you do it. So you'll be able to unlock all this stuff and customize your Algarian Storm Rider to the max. Pretty cool. This mount turned out to be way cooler than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to get some kind of just Tornado Boy for that. But yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, it is a S tier mount. I agree. It's very cool. Real quick, just on, some of the stuff that I was right about. Yes, there is not going to be a season 3, but there will be faded rating. Of course, I knew that was coming. A faded rating season. We're going to get a season 4, even though we're not getting a 10.3. I mentioned that many times already on this stream. There will be the dinar system, which essentially gives you God mode unlocked access at the very end of the expansion. If you're doing faded rating, the dinar system basically, it's confirmed that it's going to come back, allows you to buy all of your best in slot gear. So at the end of the expansion, you're essentially Mr. Big Dick God mode, going all over the place, helicopter dicking your way through the rest of the expansion. All in all, boys, I think this is great. I'm excited for it. My mind was blown. When it was first announced, I was very underwhelmed. I was like, shit, this doesn't look cool. What is this? But the more they dug into it, the more they showed off things, the delves and hero classes, and the more they talked about it, the more I thought this is the beginning of a fucking epic adventure. This is the Infinity Saga for World of Warcraft. This is going to be something that ends with a crazy climax that we'll talk about for years to come. And what does it all end with? I could imagine it ending with what would essentially be considered a WoW 2. I could see the game changing forever in a good way at the end of The Last Titan. And I'm excited, boys. I'm excited. You should be too. I think this is the beginning of a lot of good things to come in a game that we've been playing for 20 years. And to me, with Chris Metzen behind the helm, I think everything's heading in the right direction. I really do.